The alarm bells rang across the Earth Defense Station Aurora like thunder in space. Admiral Marcus Kane rushed to the control center, his coffee cup forgotten on his desk. The massive space station orbited Earth like a silent guardian, watching the darkness between the stars for any sign of danger. "What do we have, Grant?" Kane asked as he reached the sensor station. Dr. Lisa Grant looked up from her screens, her face pale. "Admiral, you need to see this. Something big just came out of hyperspace at the edge of our solar system." Kane looked at the display and felt his heart skip a beat. The screen showed dots of light, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Each dot was a ship and they were all moving toward Earth. "How many?" Kane asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. "Computer says 1,000 ships, sir. Maybe more. They're still coming through the jump point." Kane had been in the Earth Defense Force for 30 years. He had fought space pirates and rogue mining bots. He had seen alien traders and even a few diplomats from other worlds, but he had never seen anything like this. The ships were huge, each one bigger than anything humans had ever built. They moved in perfect formation like dancers in space. Their hulls gleamed silver and gold, covered in strange symbols that seemed to glow with their own light. "Sir, we're getting a transmission," said Lieutenant Tony Martinez from the communications station. "Put it on screen." The main display flickered and showed a face that made everyone in the room take a step back. The alien had blue-gray skin stretched tight over sharp bones. Its eyes were like black holes, and when it smiled, rows of needle-sharp teeth showed. "I am Emperor Vexthul of the Zelkari Empire," the creature said in perfect English. Its voice was like ice breaking. "You will surrender your world immediately, or we will take it by force." Kane stepped forward. "I'm Admiral Marcus Kane of the Earth Defense Force. We don't want any trouble. Maybe we can talk about this." The alien emperor laughed, a sound like metal scraping on stone. "There is nothing to discuss, human. We have conquered 17 worlds. Your little planet will be number 18. Behind the emperor, Kane could see other aliens moving around what looked like a command bridge. They all had the same gray skin and black eyes. They wore armor that seemed to be made of living metal, shifting and changing as they moved. "We are the Zelkari," the emperor continued. "We are the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Your people are nothing but children playing with toys. Look at your pathetic ships. Look at your weak weapons. You cannot fight us." Kane felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "We don't want to fight anyone. Earth is a peaceful world. We have colonies on other planets, but we don't attack people. We trade, we explore, we learn." "How boring," the emperor said. "But you will learn to serve. Those who obey us live good lives. Those who fight us die." The screen suddenly changed to show one of the outer mining colonies. New Denver was a small place where 3,000 people mined asteroids for metals and ice. Kane had been there once for an inspection. It was a quiet place with families and children. "Watch and learn, human," the emperor said. A beam of green light shot from one of the Zelkari ships. When it hit the colony, everything simply disappeared. The buildings, the ships, the people. All of it turned to dust in seconds. Kane heard someone behind him gasp. Dr. Grant put her hand over her mouth. "That was just a demonstration," the emperor said, smiling his terrible smile. "We destroyed Titan Base and Europa Station the same way. 6,000 of your people are dead. Do you understand now?" Kane's hands were shaking with anger, but he kept his voice steady. "You murdered innocent people. I removed obstacles. You have 24 of your hours to surrender completely. Every human world, every ship, every weapon belongs to the Zelkari Empire now. If you refuse, we will turn your precious Earth into cosmic dust." The transmission ended, leaving the control room in silence. Kane looked around at his crew. These were good people, trained soldiers and scientists who had dedicated their lives to protecting Earth. He could see fear in their eyes, but also something else. Determination. "Get me President Adams on the emergency channel," Kane said. Within minutes, the president's face appeared on screen. Claire Adams was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but Kane had seen her make decisions that saved millions of lives. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept in days. "I saw the transmission, Marcus," she said before he could speak. The whole world saw it. Every human colony got the same message. "Ma'am, what are your orders?" President Adams was quiet for a moment. In the background, Kane could hear voices and the sound of people running. The government was probably in emergency session right now. "How long do we have?" she asked. 24 hours until they attack Earth directly." "And our defenses?" Kane looked at his tactical display. Earth had 12 military ships, good ones, but nothing compared to the Zelkari fleet. The planet had defensive satellites and missile platforms. The colonies had their own small fleets. Altogether, humans had maybe 50 ships that could fight. We're outnumbered 20-1, ma'am. Maybe worse. President Adams nodded slowly. I need to talk to the Global Defense Council. Keep monitoring the alien fleet. If they make any moves, let me know immediately. Yes, ma'am. And ma'am, what should I tell the crew? The president smiled, and for a moment she looked like someone's grandmother instead of the leader of humanity. Tell them to get ready, Marcus. Tell them that humans don't give up easily. The transmission ended. Kane looked around the control room. His crew was watching him, waiting for orders. Outside the great windows, Earth hung in space like a blue and white jewel. It looked so peaceful, so beautiful. It was hard to believe that in less than one day it might all be gone. You heard the president, Kane said. We get ready. All stations prepare for combat operations, and send a message to all human ships and colonies. Tell them what's coming. As his crew rushed to their duties, Kane looked out at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, 1,000 enemy ships were coming to destroy everything he loved. But humans had survived ice ages and plagues and wars. They had reached for the stars and built homes among them. They would not go quietly into the dark. The clock on the wall of the White House Situation Room showed 18 hours until the Zelkari deadline. President Claire Adams sat at the head of a long table filled with the most important people on Earth. Generals, scientists, and world leaders all looked at her with worried faces. The alien fleet is holding position at the edge of our solar system, said General Alex Harper, head of Earth's military forces. They're not moving closer, but they're not leaving either. Dr. Rachel Stone leaned forward. She was the director of the Tesla Research Institute, one of the smartest people alive. Ma'am, we need to discuss the protocols. President Adams nodded. Everyone else, please leave us alone for a few minutes. Most of the people at the table looked confused, but they did as she asked. Soon only 5 people remained. The president, General Harper, Dr. Stone, and 2 others that few people knew about. How long since we last used them? Adams asked quietly. 50 years, said Colonel Dan Rogers. The Titan incident. Everyone at the table remembered the Titan incident, even though the public never learned the real story. The mining robots on Saturn's moon had gone crazy, building weapons and attacking human ships. The official story said it took 2 years and cost 1 million lives to stop them. The real story was very different. The Zelkari don't know, do they? Adams asked. Dr. Stone shook her head. No one knows except the people in this room and maybe 50 others around the world. We've been very careful. The truth was that humanity had been hiding something for over 200 years. When humans first traveled to other star systems, they found something amazing. Ancient alien machines left behind by a race that disappeared millions of years ago. The machines didn't work anymore, but human scientists studied them and learned incredible things. They learned how to change the basic rules of physics in small areas. They learned how to make gravity work backwards, how to turn matter into energy and back again, how to fold space itself. But they also learned something else. These powers could destroy entire worlds if used wrong. So humanity made a choice. They would keep these abilities secret, only using them when they had no other option. To the rest of the galaxy, humans would look weak and primitive. Their public ships used simple engines and basic weapons. Their cities looked normal. Everything that could really fight was hidden. Are the systems ready? General Harper asked. All of them, Dr. Stone replied. The quantum field generators, the gravity manipulators, the matter converters. We've been keeping them maintained and updated just in case. President Adams looked tired. I hoped we'd never need them. So did we all, ma'am. But the Zelkari killed 6,000 innocent people. They're not going to stop. Meanwhile, in space, Commander Nathan Brooks was getting his small fleet ready. He had 12 ships, the official Earth Defense Fleet. They were good ships with brave crews, but they looked like toys next to the Zelkari Armada. Sir, the aliens are scanning us again, said his second officer, Lieutenant Amy Foster. Let them look, Brooks said with a smile. They won't see anything interesting. The Zelkari were very interested in human technology. Their computers analyzed every human ship, every weapon, every piece of equipment they could detect. What they found made them even more confident. Human ships used simple fusion engines. Human weapons shot pieces of metal really fast or used basic lasers. Human shields were just magnetic fields that could stop some attacks. Compared to Zelkari technology, it was all very primitive. Emperor Vexthul studied the reports on his flagship. "These humans are even weaker than I thought," he told his officers. "Their largest ship is smaller than our fighters. Their weapons could not damage our armor. This will be easier than conquering the Altarian colonies." But the Emperor didn't know about the hidden bases on Earth's moon, or the secret facilities under the Antarctic ice, or the research stations that looked like weather monitoring equipment. He didn't know about Dr. Sam Mitchell, who was sitting in what appeared to be a simple laboratory, but was actually controlling devices that could reshape reality itself. Back on Earth, something strange was happening. Instead of panic, there was an odd calm spreading across the planet. People went to work as usual. Children went to school. Families had dinner together and watched the news. The news reporters couldn't understand it. Despite the alien threat, one reporter said, people seem remarkably calm. It's as if they know something we don't. In coffee shops and offices, humans talked about the situation in quiet voices. They weren't scared exactly. They were ready. Like they were waiting for something. Major Kate Sullivan was one of the few people who understood why. She remembered the real story of the Titan incident 50 years ago. The mining robots had built weapons that could destroy planets. They had threatened to kill every human in the solar system. The battle lasted exactly 23 minutes. When it was over, the robots were gone. Not destroyed, gone. Turned back into the basic materials they were made from. The space around Titan was completely clean, as if nothing had ever been there. The official story said it was a new type of nuclear weapon. The truth was much more amazing and terrifying. "Are you scared?" her daughter asked her over dinner. Kate looked at her 10-year-old girl and smiled. "No, sweetie. I'm not scared. But the aliens have big ships and scary weapons. Yes, they do. But you know what? Sometimes the biggest and scariest isn't the strongest." Her daughter thought about this. Like when the big kids pick on smaller kids, but then the small kids turn out to know karate? Kate laughed. "Something like that, yes." In space, the Zelkari fleet moved a little closer to Earth. They were still being careful, but they were confident. Their sensors showed them exactly what they expected to see. A primitive world with weak defenses and frightened people. They had no idea that hidden under the surface of the moon, massive machines were powering up for the first time in 50 years. They didn't know that in research stations around the world, scientists were running final checks on equipment that could change the laws of physics. Most importantly, they didn't understand humans at all. The Zelkari were conquerors who believed that strength came from big ships and powerful weapons. They couldn't imagine a species that would hide their real power, that would let others think they were weak. Captain Tony Martinez was on the research vessel Newton, orbiting Earth. To anyone watching, it looked like a simple science ship studying weather patterns. In reality, it was one of the most dangerous objects in the solar system. "All systems are green," he reported to Earth. "The quantum field disruptor is ready." "Understood, Newton," came the reply. "Stay on standby." Martinez looked out at the stars where the Zelkari fleet waited. In a few hours, those aliens would learn something that 17 other civilizations had never lived to understand. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their technology. It was their patience. The Zelkari fleet moved into Earth's orbital space like a storm of metal and death. 1,000 ships spread across the darkness, their weapons pointed at the small blue planet below. Each ship carried enough firepower to burn continents. Emperor Vexthul stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Endless Victory. Through the great windows, he could see Earth hanging in space like a ripe fruit ready to be picked. Soon it would belong to the Zelkari Empire, just like all the other worlds they had conquered. "Human ships are holding their position," reported his tactical officer. 12 vessels in standard defensive formation around their planet." The Emperor laughed. 12 ships against 1,000. It was almost insulting. "They have courage, I will give them that." "Stupid courage." "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human government. Put it through." President Claire Adams appeared on the main screen. She sat in what looked like a simple office with flags and books behind her. She looked like someone's grandmother, small and fragile. The Emperor almost felt sorry for her. "This is your final chance, human," Vexthul said. "Surrender now and your people will be treated well as slaves. Refuse and we will turn your world to ash." President Adams looked directly at him with calm eyes. "We've talked about your offer," she said quietly, "and we have an answer for you." The Emperor leaned forward, expecting to hear the words of surrender. Instead, President Adams smiled a small, sad smile. "No thanks," she said. The transmission ended. Vexthal stared at the blank screen for a moment, then roared with laughter. "No thanks? That's their answer? No thanks?" He turned to his weapons officer. "Destroy their orbital stations first. Let them watch their defenses die before we burn their cities." "Yes, my lord." Charging primary weapons. Across the Zelkari fleet, massive guns began to glow with deadly energy. The Emperor had seen this sight many times before. Soon the sky would light up with the destruction of another world. Soon the humans would scream and beg, but it would be too late. But something was wrong. The tactical officer was looking at his screens with confusion. "My lord, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the human planet." "What kind of readings?" I don't know, sir. It's not weapons fire. It's something else." Far below on Earth, Captain Tony Martinez sat in the control room of the research vessel Newton. The ship looked peaceful, floating in orbit like it was just studying the weather. But inside, Martinez was watching displays that showed power levels beyond anything most humans could imagine. "Newton, you are cleared to engage," came the voice from Earth Control. "Understood, Control. Beginning quantum field disruption in 3, 2, 1. Martinez pressed a single button. On the surface of Earth, Dr. Sam Mitchell did the same thing in his laboratory in Antarctica. What looked like weather equipment to alien sensors was actually something much more dangerous. The gravity field manipulators came online with a deep hum that seemed to shake the very air. On the moon, Lieutenant Amy Foster activated the matter converters hidden in the Mare Tranquillitatis base. The machines had been sleeping for 50 years, but they woke up instantly, ready to bend the laws of physics to humanity's will. Emperor Vexthal noticed the first changes about 30 seconds after the humans began their attack. But they weren't like any attack he had ever seen. "Sir, the Crimson Blade is reporting system failures," his communications officer said, sounding confused. "What kind of failures?" "All kinds, sir. Their weapons, their engines, their life support. Everything is just shutting down." "That's impossible. Check your equipment." But the reports kept coming in. The Steel Fang was losing power. The Deathwind's engines had stopped working. The Void Hunter's weapons were offline. "It's spreading through the fleet, my lord," the tactical officer said, his voice rising with panic. "Ship after ship is going dark." Vexthal grabbed the edge of his command chair. "Are we under attack?" "Where are the human weapons?" I don't see any weapons, sir. No missiles, no energy beams, nothing." "Then what is happening to my ships?" Nobody could answer him, because what was happening had never been seen before in galactic history. The humans weren't shooting at the Zelkari ships. They were doing something much more terrifying. They were changing the basic rules of reality around the fleet. The quantum field disruptor on the Newton was making the exotic matter in the Zelkari engines unstable. Without exotic matter, faster-than-light travel was impossible. But more than that, the unstable matter was releasing energy that destroyed everything around it. The gravity manipulators in Antarctica were creating small black holes inside the Zelkari ships, then making them disappear again. Each time this happened, pieces of the ships were pulled apart at the atomic level. The matter converters on the moon were the worst of all. They were designed to turn any type of matter back into pure energy. The Zelkari ships, no matter how advanced their armor, were still made of atoms. And atoms could be converted. "My lord, we need to retreat," the navigation officer shouted. "The entire third battle group has just vanished." Emperor Vexthal looked at his tactical display and felt ice in his veins. Hundreds of his ships were simply gone. Not destroyed, not damaged, gone. As if they had never existed. "All ships open fire on the human planet," he screamed. "Destroy it now." But when his weapons officer tried to fire, nothing happened. "Sir, our primary weapons are offline. All weapon systems are failing." The Emperor watched in horror as his mighty fleet began to die around him. Ships that had conquered star systems were falling apart like toys. His most powerful weapons were turning to dust. His crews were screaming in terror as their vessels dissolved beneath their feet. "How are they doing this?" he whispered. The answer was simple, though he would never live to understand it. For 200 years, humanity had been learning to work with the universe instead of fighting against it. They had discovered that with enough knowledge and the right tools, matter and energy were just suggestions. Gravity was negotiable. Time and space could be bent to serve human needs. The Zelkari had built their empire with brute force and superior weapons. They conquered through fear and destruction, but humans had learned something more powerful than any weapon. They had learned to become friends with physics itself. The attack lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it was over, the space around Earth was empty except for human ships. 1,000 Zelkari vessels and over 2 million crew members had been converted back to base energy and scattered harmlessly into space. On Earth, people looked up at the sky and saw nothing but stars. The alien fleet was gone as if it had never existed. President Adams sat in her office feeling very tired. General Harper stood beside her looking out the window at the peaceful night sky. "Is it over?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. Complete conversion of all hostile vessels. No survivors, no wreckage, no trace." Adams nodded slowly. She had hoped it would never come to this, but the Zelkari had given them no choice. They had murdered innocent people and threatened to destroy Earth itself. How long before the galaxy finds out what really happened here? Hard to say, but when they do, things are going to change. Adams looked up at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, other civilizations would soon learn that the quiet, peaceful humans were not as helpless as they appeared. The balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted in a way that no one could have predicted. Humanity had just announced itself to the universe. And the universe would never be the same. The news spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. Within hours of the Zelkari fleet's disappearance, every major civilization knew that something impossible had happened at the small human world called Earth. In the crystal towers of the Andromedans, Ambassador Rick Palmer stood before the Galactic Council. The great chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all talking at once in voices that ranged from whispers to roars. The air itself seemed to buzz with fear and confusion. "Order, order," called the council chairman, a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms. "Ambassador Palmer, we need answers. What happened to the Zelkari Imperial fleet?" Palmer was a calm man who had spent 20 years representing humanity in galactic politics. He had always presented humans as a peaceful, scientific species interested only in trade and exploration. Now he had to explain why the most powerful military force in 3 sectors had simply vanished. "The Zelkari attacked our colonies without warning," Palmer said quietly. "They killed 6,000 innocent people, including children. Then they threatened to destroy Earth itself." "But how did you destroy them?" asked the representative from Rigel Prime, her voice shaking. "The Zelkari had 1,000 ships. Your species has maybe 50 vessels total." Palmer looked around the chamber at all the frightened faces. These were the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, and they were all terrified of humanity now. It made him sad, but he understood why. "We defended ourselves," he said simply. "Humans don't like to fight, but when someone threatens our families and children, we fight back." "With what weapons?" demanded the Vegan Consortium delegate. "Our sensors detected no missile launches, no energy beams, no explosions. The Zelkari fleet just stopped existing." Palmer smiled sadly. "I'm not a military man. I can't give you technical details. But I can tell you this. Humanity has always believed that the best defense is one your enemies never see coming." While the galaxy panicked, back on Earth amazing things were happening. Dr. Helen Carter, the real director of humanity's secret research programs, was giving her first public interview in 50 years. She sat in a comfortable chair in what looked like a normal office, but she was about to reveal secrets that would change everything. "Dr. Carter," the reporter said, "people want to know how we defeated the Zelkari so easily." Dr. Carter was an elderly woman with kind eyes and gray hair. She looked like someone's grandmother, not like one of the most dangerous people in the universe. "We didn't defeat them exactly," she said thoughtfully. "We just convinced the universe that they didn't need to exist anymore." The reporter looked confused. "I don't understand." "Most species think of technology as tools to fight against nature," Dr. Carter explained. "Humans learned to work with nature instead. We discovered that if you understand the basic rules of reality well enough, you can ask those rules to change, just for a little while." "Are you saying you can control physics itself?" "Not control. That's the wrong word. We can negotiate with physics. We can ask gravity to work differently in a small area, or request that matter become energy for a few minutes. The universe is usually happy to help if you ask politely." Captain Steve Adams was President Adams's brother. and he was leading a small fleet to where the mining colonies had been destroyed. His ships didn't look like much, simple designs with basic weapons, but they carried technology that would have seemed like magic to most of the galaxy. "Are you sure this will work?" asked his science officer, Dr. Michelle Lee. "The quantum storage patterns are still there," Steve said, studying his instruments. "When the Zelkari destroyed the colonies, our automatic system saved everyone at the moment of attack. They're all stored as energy patterns in quantum space, and we can bring them back. That's the plan. Matter conversion works both ways. We can turn energy back into matter, including living matter." Steve's fleet reached the empty space where New Denver colony used to be. There was nothing there now, just a few particles of dust drifting in the void. But the quantum scanners detected something else, patterns of organized energy that contained every atom, every molecule, every living cell that had been in the colony. "Beginning matter reconstruction," Dr. Lee announced. Space began to glow with soft blue light. The light grew brighter and took shape. First the metal framework of the colony, then the buildings, then the ships. Finally, the most important part, the people. 3,000 colonists materialized in exactly the same positions they had been when the Zelkari attacked them. They were confused and frightened for a moment, then amazed to find themselves alive and whole. "New Denver colony, this is Captain Adams," Steve said over the radio. "You're safe now. The threat has been eliminated." "Captain, what happened?" "The last thing I remember was a green light, then nothing. The Zelkari attacked you, but our defensive system saved everyone. You were stored in quantum space while we dealt with the threat." Similar rescue operations were happening at the other destroyed colonies. Thousands of people who should have been dead were being brought back to life as if nothing had happened. To most of the galaxy, this was impossible. Death was supposed to be permanent. But humans had learned that death, like everything else, was just another rule that could be bent if you understood it well enough. The galaxy watched these rescues with a mixture of awe and terror. If humans could bring back the dead, what couldn't they do? How long had they been hiding these incredible abilities? What else were they capable of? On the Centauri trade station, alien merchants were having urgent meetings. "The humans have been coming here for decades," one of them said. "They've been buying our goods, selling their products, acting like they were just another young species learning about the galaxy. But they were watching us the whole time," another replied. "Learning our weaknesses, studying our technology. They probably knew how to defeat us all along." This wasn't true, but it was what many aliens believed. The idea that humanity had been pretending to be weak while secretly being the most powerful species in the galaxy was terrifying. In the Zelkari home system, the few surviving government officials received a message from Earth. They expected demands for surrender or threats of revenge. Instead, they got something they had never seen before, an offer of help. "The Zelkari Empire attacked us and we defended ourselves," the message said. "But we don't want to destroy your civilization. Humans believe that everyone deserves a chance to learn and grow. We're offering to help you rebuild, not as conquerors, but as teachers." The Zelkari officials couldn't understand this. In their culture, the strong ruled and the weak served. When you defeated an enemy, you took their worlds and enslaved their people. You didn't offer to help them, but that was exactly what humanity was doing. Instead of demanding tribute or territory, they were offering to share their knowledge to help other species develop in peaceful ways. Dr. Carter explained this in another interview. "Humans learned long ago that the universe is big enough for everyone. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to protect the people we care about and help others find their own path to happiness." "But you could conquer any world you wanted," the reporter pointed out. "You have the power to force others to do what you say." "Having power and using it are two different things," Dr. Carter replied. "Real strength isn't the ability to destroy. It's the wisdom to know when not to." As word of humanity's incredible abilities spread, the galaxy began to change. Some species were terrified and wanted to band together against the human threat. Others were amazed and wanted to learn from humanity's example. A few wise leaders understood that the galaxy had just become a much safer place. The humans had announced themselves not as conquerors, but as guardians. And for the first time in galactic history, the strongest military power was also the most peaceful. But the real changes were just beginning. 6 months after the 17-minute war, as historians were calling it, the galaxy had become a very different place. The old balance of power was gone forever, replaced by something that no one had ever imagined possible. President Claire Adams sat in her office, reading a formal invitation that had arrived that morning. The document was beautiful, written on crystal that seemed to glow with its own light. It was from the Galactic Trade Federation, inviting humanity to join as a senior partner, the highest rank they could offer. "They're scared of us," said General Alex Harper, who stood by the window looking out at the peaceful Earth sky. "Can you blame them?" Adams replied. "We've completely changed their understanding of what's possible." The invitation was signed by every major civilization in the galaxy. The Andromedans, the Rigelians, the Centauri Republic, even the proud Altarians had all agreed that humanity deserved the highest honor they could give. But it wasn't really an honor. It was an attempt to keep humanity happy, so they wouldn't do to other worlds what they had done to the Zelkari fleet. Adams made her decision. "Send a reply. Tell them we accept, but with conditions." The conditions surprised everyone in the galaxy. Instead of demanding tribute or territory, humanity asked for something else entirely: the right to protect any species that requested help, and the authority to intervene when innocent people were threatened. Colonel Dan Rogers was overseeing the establishment of what humans called protection zones around every inhabited world in the galaxy. These weren't military bases or weapons platforms. They were small stations with human crews, equipped with the same reality-bending technology that had eliminated the Zelkari fleet. "It's not about control," Rogers explained to a group of nervous alien diplomats. "We're not here to tell you how to run your worlds. We're just here to make sure nobody can attack you the way the Zelkari attacked us." The aliens weren't sure what to think about this. Most powerful species throughout galactic history had used their strength to conquer and rule. Humanity was using their strength to protect others, asking for nothing in return. Dr. Michelle Lee had become the director of the new Terran Assistance Corps, a volunteer organization that helped other species develop peaceful technologies. Her first major project was with the survivors of the Zelkari government. "We don't understand," said Sub-Commander Krixtal, one of the few Zelkari leaders who had survived their empire's destruction. "Why are you helping us? We tried to destroy you." Dr. Lee looked at the gray-skinned alien with sympathy. The Zelkari had lost everything: their fleet, their colonies, their pride. But they were still people, and people deserved a chance to learn from their mistakes. "Because that's what humans do," she said simply. "We help people who need help, even if they were our enemies before." The Zelkari rebuilding project was going well. Instead of weapons and warships, they were learning to build hospitals and schools. Instead of conquering other worlds, they were developing art and science. It was hard for them. Their entire culture had been based on war and domination, but humans were patient teachers. On the research station Aurora, Admiral Marcus Kane was meeting with delegates from a dozen different species. They had all come to ask the same question: how did humans become so powerful without anyone noticing? Kane smiled as he thought about the answer. "We learned something important very early in our history," he said. "The universe is not our enemy. It's our partner. Most species develop technology to fight against natural forces. We learn to work with them instead." "But how?" asked the delegate from Vega 7. "It started about 200 years ago when we found ancient ruins on some of the first planets we colonized. The beings who built them had learned to manipulate fundamental forces: gravity, matter, energy, even time to some degree. We studied their technology and improved on it." "Why didn't you share this knowledge?" Kane's expression became serious. "Because we learned what happened to the beings who built those ruins. They used their power to fight wars that destroyed entire star systems. Eventually, they destroyed themselves too. We decided to be more careful. The truth was that humanity had made a choice early in their development. They could have used their abilities to conquer the galaxy, to force other species to serve them. Instead, they chose to hide their strength and work for peace. We spent 2 centuries learning how to use our abilities responsibly," Kane continued. "We only reveal them when we have no other choice, like when the Zelkari threatened Earth." Commander Julia Reed was giving a tour of the Terran Defense Academy to a group of young aliens from various species. The academy was where humans trained the next generation of galactic peacekeepers, not soldiers, but people who could use advanced technology to protect others. "The most important lesson we teach here," Reed said as they walked through the peaceful campus, "is that having power doesn't mean you should use it. Real strength comes from knowing when not to fight. One of the young aliens, a curious creature from the Tau Ceti system, raised a tentacle-like appendage. But what if someone attacks you anyway? Reed smiled. Then we defend ourselves, but we try to do it in a way that teaches the attacker something useful. The Zelkari were learning this lesson. Their new leader, chosen by their own people instead of inheriting power through conquest, was Sub-Commander Krixtal. She had been meeting regularly with human advisors, learning about peaceful governance and cooperative development. "It's strange," she told Admiral Kane during one of their sessions. "We always thought strength meant having the biggest weapons and the most ships. But you have more power than we ever imagined, and you use almost none of it." Kane nodded. "That's because we learned something your people never did. The goal isn't to be the strongest. The goal is to make sure everyone can live safely and happily. Even your former enemies, especially our former enemies. If we can turn enemies into friends, then we've really won something important." The conversation was interrupted by Kane's aide, who brought news that would change the galaxy once again. "Sir, we're receiving reports of a massive conflict in the Andromeda sector. The Krillian horde is attacking civilian colonies." Kane sighed. The Krillians were another warrior species, even more aggressive than the Zelkari had been. They had apparently decided to test humanity's resolve now that the galaxy knew about human capabilities. "How many ships?" Kane asked. 5,000, sir. They're attacking 3 different systems simultaneously." Krixtal looked shocked. 5,000 ships? That's 5 times larger than our Imperial fleet was. Kane just looked tired. "Get me President Adams and the Global Defense Council, and send a message to the Krillian horde. Tell them they have one chance to withdraw and return their prisoners peacefully. And if they refuse, then they'll learn the same lesson your people did. But this time would be different. Humanity no longer needed to hide their abilities. The galaxy knew what they were capable of, and most civilizations supported them. The humans wouldn't just eliminate the Krillian fleet. They would do it publicly, as a demonstration to any other species thinking about starting wars." As Kane prepared for what might be the last great battle in galactic history, he thought about how much things had changed. Humanity had revealed themselves as the most powerful species in the galaxy. But instead of becoming tyrants, they had become protectors. In a small school on New Geneva, a young girl named Emma asked her teacher a question that was being asked on worlds throughout the galaxy. "Teacher, why are humans different from all the other strong species in history?" The teacher, who had once been Dr. Lisa Grant from the Aurora station, smiled and thought carefully about her answer. "Because we learned that real power isn't the ability to destroy things," she said. "Real power is the ability to create, to protect, and to help others become the best they can be." Emma thought about this for a moment. "So we're strong so we can take care of people?" "Exactly. We're strong so that others don't have to be afraid." Outside the classroom window, the stars shone peacefully. Somewhere among them, the Krillian horde was about to learn what 17 other civilizations had discovered. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their choice to use that strength wisely. The galaxy was finally safe, not because the strongest species had conquered everyone else, but because the strongest species had chosen to become guardians instead of conquerors. And in that choice, humanity had found something more valuable than any empire: the respect and gratitude of an entire galaxy that could finally sleep peacefully, knowing that someone was watching over them in the darkness between the stars.